Film Courage is one of the best YouTube channels where you can learn about filmmaking and a lot of aspects about it. It's definitely all based on the Hollywood structure, but still there's a lot of learning you can take. And I have been following this channel for a long time, especially videos by Gore. And I remember months back when he tweeted about RRR and he loved it. And now finally we have a video about that. And this dropped a day after India didn't select RRR for Oscars. But I feel like, it's actually good because the backlash that happened because of it, the outrage about RRR, like people in Hollywood are like, no, we'll make this film win now. They are pumped up. So I think it actually worked because it just boosted the film more and more. And, so many celebrities, so many people are just now behind the film and, nominating it, letting people know about this film. The 10,000 Academy members who vote, the film will be playing in theaters for them so they can go and enjoy the film in theater and not on their screen at home. So let's see, fingers crossed, what happens. But let's have a look at this. If you haven't seen the original video, do check it out and hit the like button on that. I'll put the link in the description.
It has everything Hollywood movies wish they had today.
Okay.
We have another quote here. We've done this with you in the past, and we're wondering if you could read this quote here. And I'm not sure if you know who it is, but...
Let's see if I can figure it out.
Okay.
I feel like I'm on a game show now. I am a filmmaker. My job is to make films. When something excites you, a story or characterization, you immediately forget about everything else. You only think how to make a movie out of it. The economics come only later. You shouldn't let money dictate the kind of films you should make.
Okay.
Well,
Scorsese?
I really love that statement. I'm not exactly sure who wrote it, but I love that. I think, well, there's a couple of things. It's unfortunate that filmmaking is the most expensive.
Yep, that's true.
Even if you make a film on your iPhone, at some point you're going to have to do a professional sound mix. You're going to have to use color correction. You're going to have to spend some money to market the film, right? So even movies at a low budget level, money is sort of the unspoken producer of every movie. That's why when you see the movies with the highest budgets, many times they appeal to everyone and no one, and don't exactly leave you with any sort of lasting impression. But I think money is always the unspoken producer, and in addition, money is, for many beginning filmmakers, an excuse to not make a movie.
Yep.
So I feel like you need to kind of set all those excuses aside, find out what your baseline level budget is to tell a story, and if there's a way to do it, leap right in. But now you have to tell me who said this. I don't know.
Speaking of leap, I'm thinking of the dancing scene. That would be SS Rajamouli. Sorry.
Oh,
wow.
He said it. I was actually thinking it will be him because they're talking about RRR, but I was like, maybe it's someone else and he follows it. My first thought actually was SS Rajamouli, but okay. I was wrong.
SS Rajamouli said that. Wow, that is fantastic.
I think I've seen that interview where he said it.
I become a quick fan of SS Rajamouli. He directed a film called RRR, which is a Tollywood film. It's really interesting. In India, they really have competing film industries. They have Bollywood, which many people are familiar with Bollywood and associate most of Indian cinema with Bollywood.
Nice to know he knows that.
There's also Tollywood. And I think that the rivalry between the two industries is actually made for better films.
That's true.
And I will say, I discovered RRR when it was number 3 at the box office the weekend that The Batman opened. And I found that really strange. How is it that the weekend that this biggest superhero movie, Robert Pattinson is the Batman, that this movie RRR suddenly is unleashed in the United States? And I went to see it on a whim based on a recommendation from a friend and noticing, like, how did this film, and the film just blew my mind. 3-hour, epic, very loosely based on 2 historical figures. And it has everything Hollywood movies wish they had today. Just compelling, instantly likable characters. It very much felt like an old style Hollywood movie, a mix of, yes, there are dance numbers. There's also romance and humor, action. There's heroism, acts of self-sacrifice. I don't know that Hollywood can make a film like RRR, and it's really disappointing to me. Oddly enough, RRR is I believe the highest budget movie ever to come from India at $75 million, and it's really quite an achievement when you see the film. I would have thought it would have been in the hundreds of millions of dollars to make this movie. But the fact that it's $75 million and so epic in scale, there's a scene near the beginning of the film in the first act, a character named Ram, who is an officer at an outpost. It's being protested. And it's an action sequence where Ram is sort of set on a mission to grab a perpetrator who threw a rock. He goes to try to track down this perpetrator. It's an epic action scene. You can't believe, I mean, it's just something on a scale we've never seen. I was shocked to learn that they took almost 30 days to shoot that scene with 20,000 extras. Not digital effects, 20,000 extras. So.
But that's also a thing, if you do the same thing in Hollywood, right, it will cost a lot more. And also, it will not be possible because of their laws and the way things work. You cannot actually do it. I think that's why they go to VFX more time, but they can maybe, but they choose not to because they find the VFX one the cheaper option for them in a way. So yeah, I think that's something in India we can pull off.
The achievement of this film is so remarkable, and it makes me sad that, like, hey, Hollywood can't compete with this. And I do see when you go to your local cinema, wherever your local movie theater is, you're seeing more and more, not necessarily your Hollywood movie, but anime. You're seeing Spanish language films, Indian films. I mean, at the AMC theaters that I go to in Southern California, there is at least a new Indian movie every month, sometimes 2 a month. I personally love that because I've always enjoyed, world cinema. I've always enjoyed it. But this film is something special. One interesting thing that I would point out about RRR is Americans' reaction to this movie. Everyone I know that has seen it has really loved it. But what I find interesting is we live at a time where politics is infused into nearly every art form. Comic books, writing, movies, television. It's I could use a break, frankly, from being lectured to. No one likes to be lectured to, and this film does not do that. But there are thematically some interesting things that are opposing in it, and I'm really surprised that I've never seen anyone point this out about RRR. On the one hand,
interesting.
The villains of the film are the colonizers, the British. The sun never sets on the British Empire is what they say. And there's a character, Governor Scott, in RRR that is, he is a villain right out of a Star Wars movie with the British accent and whatnot. So the white colonial invaders of India are the bad people. Now that is a political messaging. It's also a real historical thing that happened, okay? So it's not like it's a message, but that's something that would appeal to one side of the political aisle, would be, hey, the colonizers are the baddies in this movie. In addition, in the same movie, there is also a thread about guns. And owning a gun and the correct use of a gun, responsible use of a weapon, will lead to freedom. The character Ram, who I mentioned earlier, you get a flashback in the second half of the film with young Ram and his father, and he's teaching him about the value of a bullet being, worth more than the life of an Indian, and how that kind of plays through. He tells him the value of a bullet, what it can do, responsible gun use. You see sort of training an army to basically, fight their way to freedom from the British colonizers. So on the one hand, you have a movie that's very anti-colonizer, that is also very pro Second Amendment. You could look at it that way. I don't think I've seen a movie, I can't even think.
I think it's actually, again, all these things, right? When people have political issues with films, it's all about context, what the film is actually trying to do. And, it's very easy to understand if it's direct, indirect, uh, you can understand. And in this, what he's saying, like when you break it down to such small, small things and talk about in that realm, then like, oh, this is wrong, that is wrong, this is not good thing, that's a good thing. So again, you have to go back and look, the wider picture, the full picture, and see it in the context, and I think things become easier to understand.
A film that contains, if you've seen the movie RRR as many times as I have, you'll notice it.
I don't know how many times.
Two opposing sides of the political aisle in terms of messaging. One being anti-colonizer, another one being pro-gun. I don't know that S.S. Rajamouli intended it to be that way.
It's not intentional, basically.
I don't believe he's lecturing in any portion of the film at all. I think it's all organic to the story. I just find it fascinating that not one person has pointed this out.
That's interesting. I hadn't even thought of it. I'm referring back to the scene that you're talking about. And there's also, just to keep it lighter, there's friendship, there's romance, there's amazing dance sequences, and then there's these animals.
Right, animals, the animals are all digitally created.
Right.
But also Ram's mission, which his family is decimated and murdered by the colonizers, right? By the British soldiers wipe out his family and his tribe, nearly everyone in his tribe. And then he grows up and he's on a mission to get the guns, because guns will lead to freedom. And India was not united as a country at the time. This, for a historical frame of reference, the story of RRR takes place in the 1920s. It's also based on two real historical figures and imagines if they had met, right? They never actually did meet. But the film kind of is definitely, I would call it historical fantasy. But India was not united as a country. It was groups of tribes, and the British colonizers coming in kind of helped unite the people. And Ram's mission is, his whole mission is to get weapons and then deliver them to his tribe so they can fight for their freedom and at least fight on an even playing field, with the British having guns and them having guns. So, these are sensitive things to think about and talk about, because we live at a time where, even if you reveal even a hint at what your politics might be, it could be a death sentence for a career, which is sad to me.
That's true.
It's sad that we can't have open,
especially in Hollywood,
and honest conversations about a whole number of issues. I would love to be able to do that. But it's funny that this wildly successful, very mainstream and entertaining, almost a tip of the hat to old Hollywood film, RRR, has woven into it some messages you could read in that are right in the middle of the divide of where people are right now in the United States.
And are they on two different religious spectrums as well in the film?
No, they don't, not so much. The film does deal with that. But what I love about S.S. Rajamouli as a filmmaker, he was asked in an interview, or the interviewer asked him, said, hey, have you thought about doing a Marvel movie? You should, based on the action in RRR, you should be making a Marvel movie. And S.S. Rajamouli said, I have no interest in doing a Marvel movie. I don't want to do that. And he wants to keep his focus on telling stories from Indian history and Indian mysticism and fables. And I think that is why I so admire Rajamouli as a filmmaker, because he wants to stick to his roots, And I think that that's incredibly admirable.
Did you expect to love the movie going in?
I didn't know what.
That's an interesting question.
I didn't know what to expect about RRR when I went in to see it. I just thought, well, okay, it's 3 hours. I know I'm going to have to take a break. At some point, there's going to be an intermission, whether there is one or not. But I just fell in love with it because it reminded me of a type of movie that Hollywood used to make, which wasn't any genre. You could easily just say, well, RRR is an action movie. It's not just that. It's also a historical fantasy. It's also a love story. In fact, there are 2 love stories, maybe 3 if you count the friendship between Beam and Ram. So it really is, in my probably top 5, if not top 3 movies of the year. And it should give Hollywood pause to see how successful this film is internationally, how it's beloved by anyone that sees it. If there's a way to see RRR in a movie theater, I strongly recommend it. I've seen it in the theater 4 times. I'm actually going to see it for a 5th time in the
That's more than me. No.
theater.
I've seen it 3 times in theaters.
And when you see this movie, it's like a celebration. I haven't seen an audience react this way to a film in a theater since the very end of, Avengers Endgame. That sort of swell of, you don't want to just clap, you want to stand up and applaud, you want to scream for joy. I mean, I can think of times in the past where I've, screamed at a movie theater and applauded for joy, but I haven't done that. I haven't done that with a Hollywood film probably since that scene in Endgame, the portals scene, which is the very end of the film. I thought that was the culmination of 10 years of Marvel movies and telling effectively what turned out to be one story leading to that epic battle. Nothing compares except for the film RRR. And seeing it in the theater is, for me, if it's playing, I'm going to go. I'm just so taken with this film. And I think there's so much to learn from it. And I really hope that Hollywood learns the lesson of, please stop the lecturing. Tell audiences a story that they can be engaged with characters that you fall in love with. And I think really that formula is fairly simple. I don't know where we got to this place where we felt it necessary to infuse all of our entertainment with some sort of lecturing. You just don't need it.
And it's Tollywood, you said.
Tollywood, yes. I am still learning about all this. My understanding is there are 2 dominant languages in India. There's Telugu and Hindi, and sometimes you will see, they'll come out in different languages. I'm seeing it with the subtitles. I can't speak either language. The only words I know are natu natu, which is the dance number in the middle of RRR, where Ram and Beam do the natu natu dance.
Right.
Then it turns into a dance off. Some friends of mine have recommended RRR to. They kind of cringe for a minute, like, oh, it's one of those Bollywood movies with dance numbers. And I correct them because I was corrected. It's Tollywood. And the dance number is a big part of the story. It's a huge part of the story. So it's not just put in there just to be in there.
Right. There's a purpose.
There's a purpose for Natu Natu to be in the middle of that. And God, I wish I had the skills that those actors did in that scene. It's really, really remarkable. So, God, just if I could say one thing, just go see RRR in a theater if you have the opportunity. You can thank me later.
All right, so that was Chris Gore, and he was quite excited just talking about this film. I can totally understand. I get excited talking about the film, and I saw the film 3 times in theaters. First of all, it's expensive, Second of all, and I saw it in like the week it came out, first day first show, then that Sunday, then 2 weeks later with friends. But I definitely, for the second time I saw it was like full on, like full house, house full, not full house, house full. And it was fun to watch that with the people, but still people are not screaming that much, as if a Marvel crowd would, like. But but I would love to, like, if the film releases in some Mumbai or Hyderabad somewhere, and we can have a special screening, I would love to go there and just enjoy it with everyone who loves the film. That's experience something else altogether. But again, man, everyone is just raving about the film. because it's worth raving. And yeah, Oscars are coming. Let's see. We'll be doing a live watch along. We always do every for last 2 years. We are doing this live watch along of the Oscars. Not every 2 years. Like first year we did just on Discord. Second time we did a live on YouTube. And this time, of course, we'll be doing if Triple I is nominated for anything. Even without that, also I'm sure it will be nominated. Even without that, we will be doing a live coverage, so you can join us. It's 5:30 a.m. in the morning. And if Triple I is nominated, I think most of the India will be awake for that. So yeah, join us for that and subscribe to get that. Until then, you can check out this video. If you like this, like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.